Dear ones, let us now rest in these chairs made to hold weary lives, in space carved out for the doing of nothing much but being. Perhaps we will feel in our bones, in our weary hearts, the aching, healing sense that this is enough, even this. That we are enough, you are enough, enough. Friends, is there something you can do right now to make your body 10% more comfortable? Some way you might shift in your chair or alter your position just to gain a little bit more ease. I want to start by asking you a question this morning. What would shift in your life if you knew deep in your bones that you had plenty of time? What would you do if you knew you had plenty of time? Who would you be? Where would that knowledge live in your body? What muscles would loosen? What possibility would open? Beloved, you have plenty of time. That is not to say that I know how many days remain to you on this earth or what will fill them by necessity or choice. But it is to say that whatever time each of us has can be full and beautiful and abundant. That in the time we have, there can be plenty if we will go slower. Can you imagine it, the pace of plenty? Nope, even slower than you're imagining. Slower still. There. Can you feel the plenty around you? Can you taste it in the air? When our pace slows to the point of radical presence to the moment at hand, we touch eternity there. Time opens up. And there is nothing but enough. In this moment, there is plenty. This is the first year of my life that I've ever felt like I had enough time. A stopwatch has been ticking away at my ear since the day I was born into this culture of do and make and achieve and produce, and if you don't, your life will be meaningless, and then why were you even born? This is the first year of my life I've ever felt that I had enough time. And that is kind of a wild thing to say because I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old who consume time as voraciously as goldfish crackers. But there it is. Even with my children gobbling it up, this year I have had enough time. Why? How? It's still a bit mysterious to me, but I think it has to do with walking in the woods. By some miracle of the expanding and contracting universe, I have stumbled upon a portal or wormhole on the MKT trail. Where walking and praying in the woods for an hour somehow expands the time that I experience for the rest of the day. On days when it is very rainy or very cold, or I am simply tired, the portal goes and relocates to my bed with no devices. It struck me as I read Tricia Hersey's ministry manifesto that these portals exist because they are both, for me, forms of rest. The walk in the woods, the lounge in my cozy bed. And because in rest, I begin to experience a sense of deep sufficiency that expands to the rest of my day. The slower I go for even 1 hour, the more I notice the enoughness of the trees on the trail, and the maple outside my bedroom window. The slower I go, the more I grasp the connections between me and the people I encounter, whether I am beside a hospital bed or in the grocery line. The slower I go, the more the golden light across the bare branches in the yard is a moment of eternity and less a sign of another day gone. The slower I go, the more curious I'm able to become about the subjective experience of the other creatures around me. The world shifts like magic, from crushing machine to breathing earth. Y'all, I'm not saying that going slow is easy. For me, it has felt impossibly hard. I've been racing that stopwatch since the day I was born, and I did not know how to go slow until my body halted and demanded it. Until years ago, an inflamed nervous system sent disabling symptoms through my neurons to my muscles. And even then, I would only slow down until I could speed back up again. The slow pace never lasted. And then in 2021, my sabbatical arrived, and I didn't have work to distract me, and I devoted myself to slowing my pace. I slowed down on purpose, and you know what happened? I started having panic attacks. So that is how hard going slow is for me. But that sabbatical year, I gathered all my tools around prayer, spiritual direction, therapy, Lexapro, dance, beloved friends and family. I gathered all my tools to help me slow down without panicking. And for 3 months, it was excruciating. And then suddenly it was not. The trees on the trail helped. My cozy bed, the therapy, my beautiful dawdling children managed to help. But I worked so hard to go slow, so hard. And now I have enough time for the first time in my life. Now I know how the world can shift like magic from crushing machine to breathing earth. What a gift. And now I believe in the marrow of my bones that in this shift lies our salvation, our liberation, and the thriving that every creature, every cell, every atom on this planet deserves. A planet where living and dying are entangled together, and time is enough, and presence is our pathway to justice, and rest is our birthright, and joy is more, as Mary Oliver reminds us, than just a crumb. In her manifesto for rest, the Knapp bishop, Tricia Hersey, tells us that systems of capitalism and white supremacy grind us all to the bone in a nihilistic culture of always more and never enough. These systems carefully place Black and Indigenous people and other marginalized people closest to those grinding gears, but the machine is there to consume every last one of us. And, Hersey tells us, the dominant culture of our society is one of enthusiastic consent to that grinding. Grind culture, she argues, is intentionally and uncritically elevated in our society. We hustle, achieve, succeed in its logic, and willingly drive ourselves into the ground, thereby supporting the culture that also grinds others into dust in its machinery of racial, heteropatriarchal terror. Hersey responds, I will rest. She is inspired by her ancestors, enslaved people whose time, labor, and rest were stolen from them. She is inspired as repair to resist grind culture by napping, daydreaming, by refusing the grind. Rest is the resistance, she tells us. Rest is our pathway to liberation. I will not donate my body to white supremacy and capitalism, she says. I will rest. And whether humans created systems of plunder out of fear that we'd never be enough, or whether the systems themselves handed us that fear in the first place, Hersey points out they are entangled. The systems that grind and our sense of unworth are inextricably linked. If we think grind culture is what can give us our worth, then we will hand our bodies over to it. So to resist grind culture, we must find our worth elsewhere. In our divine bodies, in the sacredness of the world, in the time that is plenty when we will slow down enough to experience its abundance. What would it be like? What would it feel like for you to find your worth elsewhere? In your body, in the earth, in the deep wellspring of being below us all. In the face of the grind culture that Hersey describes, I believe that Unitarian Universalism has a powerful theological intervention. From our Unitarian ancestors, we inherit the claim that we are born not into sin, but into blessing, that we deserve thriving simply by our presence here on this earth. Our lives are a blessing, period. And from our Universalist ancestors, we inherit the claim that there is nothing we can do to earn or lose the divine love that is our birthright. We will not and cannot be cast outside the circle of that love that is beyond our imagining. We cannot be cast out. Unitarian Universalism has these powerful theological interventions into grind culture, but we are less replete with embodied practices to live out those claims. We are also descended, after all, from the Puritans who brought the Protestant work ethic to this land alongside their smallpox blankets and colonizer mentality. And so we carry in our lineage a theology of sufficiency while we are also born and bathed in a culture of racialized capitalism that insists we can never be enough and will never have enough. So what do? We rest. We practice. We slow our pace as deep spiritual necessity. What if collective and communal commitment to rest is one of our most necessary faith practices? What if we are called together to leave behind our urgent striving in favor of a slower, deeper presence to one another and the earth as our pathway to salvation? What if our fierce urgency to save the world is exactly a part of those colonial systems that grind us under the fiction of progress? And what if we could simply be radically present instead? Slow enough together to halt the gears that grind in those systems. That is Hersey's claim. That our refusal of its inhuman pace is what will eventually destroy the machine entirely. That the kingdom of God and liberation for us all is a room full of black women, safe and nurtured and napping. That the revolution begins with a long hug and a sleepy time tea for the most reviled. That the revolution continues every time one of us steps off the conveyor belt and back onto the breathing earth. That when we halt the machine, we can build alternative structures of slow thriving that work for everyone, where rest is not a privilege but a birthright, where our imaginations flourish in well-rested abundance, and where there is plenty of time. And so I invite you to ponder this month, as we explore slowness as our theme, how can you build rest into your daily liberation practice? And how can you help to ensure rest for those at the margins through communal care? How can you refuse the cultures that steal our humanity, starting with our sleep? Because rested bodies are grounded and flexible. Rested bodies can bend and adapt. Rested minds are spacious and vast. Rested minds can imagine possibility. And rested hearts are tender and open. Rested hearts can connect so deeply. The revolution will be slow. The revolution will be slow because the love revolution requires rested bodies, minds, and hearts to open and bend and dream. The revolution will be slow because our earth needs rest and needs us rested, and therefore creatively connected. Start here. Know this: our joy does not come from the machines that grind our bones. Our lives, our worth did not come from that machine, and our rest will never come from that machine. Our joy, our worth, and our right to rest were given to us by the universe itself and nothing else, and they cannot be taken away. They are our birthright. They are our promise to one another. They are enough.